Before Africa was divided by foreign hands, it was a continent of kingdoms, trade routes, empires, and rich civilizations. But in the late 19th century, a storm was brewing in Europe, a storm that would forever alter Africa's destiny. This is the untold story of how an entire continent was stolen, without a single battle fought on its soil. This is the scramble for Africa. The Berlin Conference, Africa was not invited. In 1884, in a cold, ornate room in Berlin, Europe's most powerful men gathered to decide the fate of a continent they barely understood. This is a story of betrayal, of greed, and of carving Africa, without a single African voice in the room. By the late 1800s, Europe's appetite for rubber gold ivory and, well, power had reached a fever pitch. Industrial revolutions demanded resources, and empires hungered for expansion. Africa, vast and rich, became the ultimate prize. In November 1884, German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck summoned 14 European nations and the United States to Berlin. Their stated goal was to prevent war over African lands by dividing the continent like slices of a cake. No African leaders were invited, no kings, no chiefs, no elders. Africa's destiny was redrawn without a single African voice. Borders ignored cultures, languages, and histories. Britain claimed East and Southern Africa. France took West Africa. Belgium, under King Leopold II, seized the Congo. Not for Belgium, but for himself. The continent was carved like meat on a platter. Leopold named it the Congo Free State, but, it was anything but free. Soldiers severed the hands of workers who failed to meet rubber quotas. 10 million people perished in one of history's most brutal and forgotten genocides. African kingdoms sent envoys, wrote letters, and pleaded for peace. They were ignored. Their lands, cultures, and sovereignties were reduced to zones of profit. By 1900, over 90% of Africa was under European control. Entire civilizations were disrupted, languages outlawed, cultures demonized. Yet seeds of resistance were already taking root. Africa was not at the table, but it was on the menu. While decisions were being made behind closed doors, the people of Cameroon remained blissfully unaware. Life carried on as usual. The kingdoms continued their daily routines, farmers tended to their fields, children played with laughter in the air, and the markets were alive with color and sound. However, unbeknownst to them, the maps in Berlin had already altered their world irrevocably. Borders, drawn by foreign hands, now split communities apart, separated friends and families, and disrupted trade routes that had been the lifeblood of the region for centuries. The Berlin Conference had come to an end, the maps were redrawn, and the borders were decided. But you see, the decisions made in Berlin were just the beginning of a new chapter. To make their claims a reality, the European powers needed to act swiftly, and the first to make a move was Germany. When the Berlin Conference ended, Cameroon's fate was sealed. The land was carved up on paper. But now the promises written in ink had to be claimed in blood. Germany's eyes were fixed on Cameroon, but why? What made this coastal and inland territory so valuable among the many African lands?
6 of the 10 fastest-growing economies are in sub-Saharan Africa, countries rich in mineral wealth. Coltan for our computers, cobalt for our batteries, phosphates for our agriculture, nuclear ore for our power. These are the things, gentlemen, that the wars of the next 20, 30 years will be fought over.
Cameroon's minerals first iron ore. The Nkut mine in southern Cameroon holds around 3 billion tons, while the Mbalam mine to the east contains about 800 million tons of high-grade iron ore at 62% purity. Bauxite, which is the primary ore for aluminum, is found mainly in Minim Martap and Ngaoundal. There are, well, over 1 billion tons of it in these regions. Cobalt and nickel are also significant resources, particularly in the Nkamuna Marda area in the southeast. Here you'll find around 68 million tons of ore containing cobalt, nickel and manganese. Other resources include palm oil, timber, fertile soil, as well as strategic rivers and ports. Essentially everything Germany wanted for economic dominance. Was this the only reason Germany wanted Cameroon? Well, no, beyond the minerals, Cameroon offered strategic trade routes, fertile lands, and a population exploitable for labor. Its location was perfect for controlling Central Africa. The temptation, honestly, was just irresistible. Germany arrived with force. Julius von Soden, who was appointed governor in 1885, oversaw the early campaigns. He pushed inland, dividing territories and asserting German rule. But Cameroonians resisted fiercely. They refused to bow quietly. From the Bamileke highlands to the coastal regions, resistance blazed across the land. Warriors, kings, queens, and ordinary people stood against the empire. In western Cameroon, Rudolf Douala Mangabel organized defenses along the rivers. In the Adamawa region, Fonabumbi I rallied local chiefs to protect villages. And in the grassfields, communities practiced guerrilla tactics, ambushing German patrols and disrupting supply lines. When brute force alone wasn't enough, Germany turned to deception. They called it civilizing, but it was really divide and rule, the empire's silent weapon. They separated ethnic groups, favored some over others, and planted seeds of distrust that, well, still linger today. They labeled some groups loyal, others hostile. Chiefs who resisted were executed or exiled. Traditional authority, was undermined. Communities were forced to pay taxes or work in colonial enterprises. Germany claimed to civilize, but it came to steal. Rubber, palm oil, timber and minerals, Cameroon's wealth flowed abroad. Forests were cleared to feed German industries. Brutal punishments followed. Fertile lands became plantations for foreign profit, leaving local communities impoverished. Colonial roads were not for Cameroonians. They moved resources from mines and farms to ports for German profit. Taxes forced local labor, and traditional wealth and authority were stolen. Cameroon became a land of extraction and control. Even under occupation, Cameroon's spirit refused to die. Burned villages became symbols of defiance. Rivers carried stories of lost lives and heroic deeds. Every executed leader, every imprisoned chief, every destroyed homestead became a testament to courage. The people may have been overpowered militarily, but morally and culturally they remained unbroken. The legacy of Rudolf Douala Mangabel, Fonabumbi I and the Adamawa chiefs, well, it continues to inspire pride and resistance. Germany had struck first. Cameroon had resisted fiercely, but ultimately fell under colonial terror. Yet the map drawn in Berlin did not stop with Cameroon. Planning invasions was already underway. The story of how Cameroon was stolen, region by region, is only just beginning.